connect with it to radiate that light everywhere. We must also remember that darkness comes from within, and without, too. Once again, that's duality. The more that we lighten our personal darkness, the more we can alchemize the impersonal shadows. This occurs primarily through the repair and reconstruction of the ego, which as a concept, shouldn't be condemned at all. The ego simply means at its core the self, the I, which needs to be emancipated from its conditioning and created in an image of all the truths that exist within both the material and spiritual structures. Now of course I'm not talking about the superficial definition of ego, such as excessive pride or a lack of selflessness. Those aspects of the ego certainly need to be transcended. I'm referring to the fact that everyone, both past and present, lives with their ego intact because we need it to function as a human snapshot of consciousness. So it's not going anywhere, at least for the time being. That's why our goal should be to reset it and then redesign it, instead of rejecting it. Otherwise, it's just adding more self-harm to the suffering of the world. 7. Explore altered states of consciousness. Ever since we were kids where we spun around in circles to make ourselves dizzy, we have explored altered mind states. Dreaming is another natural way too, as is meditation. Alcohol is the most common way people do it in modern society, although it is the most destructive. Alternatively, some people choose to partake in psychedelic adventures, many of which lead to a spiritual affinity with reality and the subsequent embracing of meditation as a lifestyle. No matter which way we personally choose to alter our conditioned mind state, and regardless if it's primarily for fun, healing, development, or shamanistic purposes, the benefits of deprogramming and reprogramming the mind and heart beat loud and clear. Simply, this is done most effectively and efficiently through altered states of consciousness. The truth remains that, as we venture through these experiences, we have the potential to become more conscious of both the immaterial and material matrix and, therefore, learn to design ourselves in ways that naturally contribute to our personal and collective unveiling. 8. Expose and disconnect from the dysfunctions of the systems. Obviously we all can't just quit our job, pack up house and move off-grid, but we can identify the harmful aspects to the systems and personally decide not to participate the best we can, according to our particular context. It's not like it's all bad, anyway. There's some great results that humanity's series of systems have cultivated over the last several millennia, such as culture, knowledge, music, philosophy, certain industry, many technologies, some modern and ancient medicines, an increase in innovation, the potential to collectively thrive, and the uniting of the global culture, to name but a few absolute gems. Some examples of the dysfunctions that we need to be aware of include: recognizing that the banking industry is a scam perpetrated by the cabal, one in which much of the wealth and resources of the planet is consolidated into the hands of a few, instead of being distributed fairly throughout our local communities. Knowing that the mainstream media is controlled deception and propaganda, so we won't find holistic truths there. Acknowledging that mechanistic medicine has been hijacked by unethical profit-based monopolies. Accepting that scientific endeavor has been dogmatized by philosophical materialism, and therefore much of the emerging scientific evidence is misinterpreted through the prison of the materialist faith. Understanding that our air and water is being bombarded with toxic and harmful chemicals, let alone most of our foods and immunization procedures. Reflecting that the political environment has been infiltrated by the shadow power structures, and that democracy has basically died in the modern era. Registering that our natural systems are being damaged, such as deforestation, ocean acidification, desertification, decreased biodiversity, and an alarming and unnatural rate of extinction in the animal and plant kingdoms. All of this insanity is a product of the powerful organizations that have commandeered the various systems, however they only have so much power because it's sanctioned by the people. One day we will stop condoning all this carnage by collectively speaking out loud about it and demand that it all change. Therefore, the more we practically engage with these layers of truth, the sooner we will heal and transcend them. 9. Bypass the lower vibratory intelligence and engage directly with the source. At the core of our reality is the one thing, and each subsequent creation within our existence is intimately interconnected with it. There are many names for it, however the most progressive term is simply consciousness. Each intelligent manifestation of this universal awareness is a fractal of consciousness which dualistically harbors both positive and negative spin, or put another way, light and dark. Within the spiritual matrix, there are forces that have both malevolent and benevolent energy, regardless if they're conscious of it or not. Some frequencies within the multidimensional platform that we inhabit are healthy and empowering to play with, however there are always the risks of deception, illness, fear, and energetic waste. This unnecessary noise and turbulence can be bypassed by simply engaging directly with the source. It is the most effective and efficient method to alchemizing our own energy with the energy around us, as it ensures that our psychological and emotional mind layers don't restrict and misdirect the magic that can take place. How far we become conscious of our own shamanic powers should determine how we consciously choose to play in this theater, yet for a surefire way of maximizing the contribution we make to the energetic and paradigmatic shifts, use the source as the default approach, which naturally gets our human flaws out of the way. 10. Both the inner and outer realms are given equal priority. The ways in which we act is just as important as how we think and feel, particularly in response to the external realm. If we're cold, we rug up. If we're hungry, we eat. If we're in danger, we protect ourselves. If we're being forced into a corrupted and unhealthy system, we speak up and create our own. As Logan said in Wolverine, you can't pretend shit isn't happening when it is, princess. That's why we must provide well-contextualized information about the serious risks that we currently face as a species, such as economic collapse, more false flags and World War III. It is not fear-mongering if the intention is to raise awareness, it is simply necessary to expose all the layers of truth to the world. The fact remains that keeping our heads in the sand is witless, which is why lazily assuming that everything will be okay without taking any action, as many people do in the New Age community, is also highly dangerous. We must work together and pay heed to the lives lost in Mali, Paris, Beirut, Palestine, and all the other war and ideological torn places across the world. We must bind to rebuild the communities whose local economies have disintegrated, and to bring justice to the people whose land and independence have been stolen. We must bring an end to the 20,000 people who die from poverty each day because of a privatized banking system that consolidates the world's power into the hands of a few private families that want to legally institute their hegemony in the form of a one-world government. Who besides us will bring about these changes? Our leading social activists, such as Gandhi and the King, would be mortified if they knew that by choice we were allowing this all to happen. If we don't stand up together and sort the psychopathy of the system out, the military-industrial media-politico-banking complex will continue its killing and pillage across our planet until they arrive on all our doorsteps. This is an integral part of our spiritual journey and definitely not something that we should cover our ears about and sing la la la, I can't hear you. Yes, it's important to be the change that you want to see in the world. However, it is equally important to actively help the outside world to heal and grow too. The reality is that it's not going to go away, unless we force it. This is part of the responsibility we have when we awaken ourselves to the realities of our majestic, but corrupted world. 11. Be kind, be cool, be compassionate, be truth. The internet has a wealth of knowledge, but it also is a breeding place for hateful and disrespectful commentary. Unfortunately, anonymity and geographical distance really brings out some distasteful traits of humanity. Why do some people feel the need to abusively attack others with differing views? Is it insecurity? What about trauma? Could it simply be a misguided attempt to find some personal authority in a dazed and confused world? Whatever the case, respect doesn't just cost us nothing, it guarantees some peace within ourselves.